Hi everyone. I'm still working on the interpretation of the Enuma Elish, but I'm doing some comparisons and some work with Genesis along the way. I'm kind of still doing some cross comparisons. It's a big task. So what I want to do though is do a little prep work on Genesis before I get there, because as I'm looking through things, I realize that there have been things like chapters in Genesis that were not original. I want to take those out. There's something that I want to show you as we look through here. And what I'm going to do is let me share a screen with you right now, and let's take a look at something. And first of all, I want to say there's nothing wrong with having the chapters, having this split out. There are different stories in here. It starts off with the creation. It goes into first sin. There's nothing wrong with blocking that out and seeing that there's kind of separate sections there along the way. However, calling it chapters doesn't quite do the best job. What I'm going to do is identify it. But in Genesis 1 right here, what I'm going to do, watch this. I'm going to change Genesis 1 to first creation story. See that? Now, if we read down through the first creation story, and here's why I'm going to say it's first creation story, we get down to here, and you see where there's a chapter 2, Genesis 2. And if you read through here, you will see that it's actually not the end of the first creation story. Somebody chaptered this in a way that made a funny looking overlap right here, right off the bat, which looks bizarre to me. If we read through here, we'll see that at the end of chapter 1, it says, God saw everything that he had made, and indeed it was very good. And there was evening and there was morning, the sixth day. And then it goes into Genesis 2, which is day 7. Creation was 7 days. That belongs together. That is one creation story. Where does it end? Down here where it says in Genesis 2, verse 4, these are the generations of the heavens and the earth when they were created. That ends it right there. The very next line that is still in that verse, in the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens, when no plant of the field was yet in the earth and no herb in the field had yet sprung up, for the Lord God had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was no one around to till the ground. So this conflicts with the first story where God had already created all that stuff, but it also in the first story said, let us make humankind in our image according to our likeness. We see actually the absence in the very first story of monotheism. It's not there. And so that's an interesting thing to note. The next one does start, but I'm not going to call that Genesis 2. I'm going to take that out. I'll actually leave that there and just leave it as kind of a note there, maybe highlight that. But down here is where I am going to say the second creation story starts right here. So I'm going to do first creation and then second creation. Then I'm going to go down to where Genesis 3 is coming out, and it's going to be turned to first sin and its punishment. Then Genesis 4, it's going to be Cain murders Abel. I'm going to start breaking this down in chunks of what's happening and describing what each section is going to be. And this is a way to just start organizing it in a manner that helps us to understand it, perhaps. And the reason I'm doing this, if you've been following my work, is you realize that I'm finding something that is very structured in here, but it's hidden in the verbiage. And if we kind of extract the verbiage and look at things and put the stories together, we begin to see the template come online a little bit better. So we're gradually shifting analogous terms to something that is in the psyche that is more realistic, but that's not quite happening yet. That is contained in these teachings. I will actually entertain that idea a little bit, though, too, as to why, if you look through here and see that it was, I can't remember when the chapters came about, 12th century or something like that. They were not there to begin with. They were added in later. And whoever did it structured out these stories, parsed it out pretty well. But right there where that bizarre, here's the story that sounds like it's not monotheistic, shifting right into one that is, and it's offering more details of how we come about, is what I'm going to suggest. Both of those stories are necessary. They're containing two different things, so they both need to be there, but they don't exactly blend. I could have put it all in one story and made it smooth, but what does that tell us? It's coming from different sources, and somebody's probably that recognizes that is like trying to overlap it in a way to fudge that and hide that idea. That's what I think. Why do I think so? Because the person who wrote the chapters was a high-level theist up in the Catholic Church. And they were doing what? They're trying to prove the Bible, God. They need that to be. And if they see a flaw or an error in there, I would think it would be natural for them to try and fudge around it. They didn't change any verbiage. It doesn't look like, well, I don't know. No, because too many sources have brought it around. But there was that chapter break that doesn't belong there. There's a first creation. There's a second creation. There's a sin. That's how we're going to break it down. Let's take out all of the stuff that wasn't there to begin with. Before I jump back to the Enuma Elish, if you want to look through things here on your own some more, there's a couple more things I'm going to suggest to you. And let me share the screen again. First creation story, we have down here verses 11 and 12. And I've talked about the repetition sometimes in verbiage, where something will be worded a certain way. We just saw that in the Enuma Elish, where we're seeing an advancement of a character from one to another, the advancement of ourself from somebody who is looking for our inner peace to the person who finally succeeds it, that they're calling that two different people. But they get our attention through doubling up verses in some way. And right here, what I believe I see is the same technique. Then God said, "Let the earth put forth vegetation, plants yielding seed, and fruit trees of every kind on earth that bear fruit with the seed in it." And it was so. The earth brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed of every kind, and trees of every kind bearing fruit with the seed in it. And God saw that it was good. See how those sound almost identical. There's just a little bit of variation in there to maybe mix it up or something, but I'm seeing right there that there's that this, when we play it out in the psyche, is this. The seed is what we have named, what we have decided, what we when we first start our life out, we have no mental convictions. We are ready to go. We are in an empty state. And as we go, as we experience life and live life and store away events and emotional states with them, that is what is happening. Those are seeds being planted in the garden that is our soul that are going to be emerging later. The fruit and the seed in it, we are known by our fruits. This is going to emerge later, but this right here is teaching us that the world is made up, or the universe and our life is made up in such a way in the psyche that what emerges from us is what comes from the seeds that are in us, that come naturally then from what? Our mental convictions. That's the only place it can come from. Okay, look for that stuff in here. They get our attention. They're drawing us into something. Okay, and then look back again. We skip a verse and jump down to 14, and God said, "Let there be lights in the dome of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years." We're always looking for cycles. So here we have created the idea that something is going to be growing from your garden and that it's going to be in cycles. These patterns are going to emerge. Look for these things. What else? At this point, what I want to say is that you're going to see, like there's a point in here where Adam is in the garden and naming creatures. And if you were to go to the Tao Te Ching, you would find one of the very first things that you're being taught is that naming is the origin of all particular things. And what this is referring to in the psyche is our deciding what something is, the value, the quality, the emotional quality of something that we're going to put away inside of us and store it that way unresolved, that is going to attract things that feed it. It's going to get bigger. It's going to stay in place. It's going to escalate with us in life if we don't interact with it. The naming, this is the point. If you look in the story, you will see that Adam at this point doesn't have Eve. The subconscious isn't there. We are at this stage in our development learning what life is. Oh, that's good. That's bad. We don't know that beforehand. We haven't named things. We haven't classified things in our psyche. This is a story being carried by an outward thing that really happened, but it's metaphoric. But as the creation sequence, as the Adam character, our conscious, as it names and learns, what happens next is that we have now developed our Eve character. We have now developed our subconscious. We started without one, now we have one. And it goes off and does what? It sins. This is analogous to us living life to begin with without knowing that and having experiences and losing our place in that inner peace, the Garden of Eden. It gets much deeper, but I don't want to do Genesis yet. We're building up to it. I just wanted to add that ahead because I'm going to do a reading of some Genesis because I need to listen to it repetitively to recognize patterns. And I can't find any good copies that don't have all this melodramatic noise and boom, all kind of sounds and voices. I just need to hear it kind of textually. So I'm going to do kind of a reading, and I'm going to read it in such a way that it's not Genesis chapter 1 in the beginning. It's going to be first creation story in the beginning, second creation story, first sin. It'll be like that. And anyway, I'll work on that as I'm working on the... I'll get back to the Enuma Elish, though. There were some fun things there that I'm learning a lot with that one. So, all right, that's all I had for this video. Questions, comments below, feel free. Absolutely, always. And love one another. I'll see you in the next video.